well, that I call the March 28th meeting of the PAS Technical Group to order at 9:31 a.m. If I could just remind everybody really quick to please change your Zoom name to your first and last name and your library name. That makes it easy to take attendance. And then also a reminder that when you do speak, if you could please introduce yourself so Meg taking the minutes knows who to note is speaking. That would be much appreciated. Thanks, everyone. First of all, does anybody have any additions they would like to add to the agenda? No, okay, I'm not seeing anybody in the chat or on videos. So then we will move into approving the minutes from the last meeting. Are there any revisions to the draft minutes that were sent out that anyone would like to make?
Ooh, I just have one comment, Sam. It looks like Emily has an addition to the agenda, is gonna pop it in the chat. So we'll just wait for Emily to put that in, and then we'll add it to the bottom of our list. So back to you for the minutes.
All right.
Yeah, it looks like Emily's additional agenda item is how other libraries track holds on items that are long overdue and going to lost. So they're currently tracking holds manually. So yep, we can put that on at the end of the agenda and chat about that a little bit at the end.
Definitely. All right. Adding it to my notes here real quick. Okay. All right, thank you so much, Emily. We will definitely discuss that. So then back to the approval of the minutes from the last meeting in January. Did anyone have any revisions that they would like to make to that? All right, I don't see anyone with any changes. So if that is the case, the minutes are approved by unanimous consent as distributed. Thank you, everyone. All right, so then next we'll move into officer reports for this meeting. I would like to solicit volunteers for next year's PAS officers. It's a pretty easy job. As you can tell, there aren't even usually officer reports. This might be my first officer report as chair. So CCS makes it really easy for all of us officers, and they're a pleasure to work with. So Henry will be stepping up as chair after serving as vice chair this year. So we're looking for any volunteers for vice chair and secretary. If you're interested in either of those positions, please go ahead and email Deborah, and we'll vote to approve any new officers at our next meeting in June. So that'll be the one wrapping up this fiscal year, and you would take over as officers in the next meeting. All right, so thanks everyone for your consideration of those roles. Then we will move into CCS staff reports, and I will hand it over to Deborah.
Thanks, Sam. Yes, and if anyone has any questions about serving as an officer, feel free to reach out to me. You can reach out to Sam too, or Henry or Meg if you have questions. I'm sure they'll be happy to answer questions about workload, time commitment. So yeah, we will be looking for those nominations. So I have a couple items I wanted to run through. The first is some really exciting news. I want to welcome Kiara Lyons to the CCS team. Kiara is joining us here today on the call. Kiara started in her role as Member Services Associate at the beginning of this month. So I think, what, are you on your 4th week now, Kiara? Yeah, she's chugging through. You may have seen Kiara answering some of your tickets, just kind of jumping right in to that support work. So Kiara is actually coming to us from the Warren Newport Public Library. So she has some CCS experience already going through the migration as a member of that team. So she has also worked in the past as a teacher and educational counselor. So she's coming with a really great background in education and learning. So she's going to be an awesome asset to our team. And we're really, really excited to have her on board. So you'll be seeing Kiara kind of working with you on support and then jumping into leading training for Find More Illinois and for the upcoming migration. So welcome, Kiara. We're very happy to have you. This is Kiara's first technical group meeting, so we've got to impress her here. So if you see Kiara, give her a warm welcome. Then the next item I want to just give an update on is Find More Illinois. So we are currently just knee-deep in preparation here for the rollout of Find More Illinois. I think most of you know by now, but Governing Board voted to join Find More Illinois as a full consortium back in November. And since then, CCS, Rails, and staff at your library have been working really hard on setup and configuration to get ready for our launches in the coming months. For those of you who might not be familiar, Find More Illinois is a resource sharing platform sponsored or hosted by Rails. So any Illinois library can join, and staff and patrons at member libraries can place holds and request materials from other members, and then those items are sent back and forth to fill holds through Rails delivery. So we have our first CCS libraries launching Find More. It is like creeping very close in May. Actually, Algonquin and Morton Grove, you are our first two that will be going live the first week in May. And then we'll see more libraries going live on a weekly basis, staggered kind of throughout May, June, July, and August. So I'm very excited. But again, yeah, we've got really a lot of work to do coming up. So we will be leading some training opportunities for libraries over the coming months. We'll be leading a couple different kinds of training sessions. So we'll be leading more in-depth interlibrary loan training for your ILL staff. And then we'll also be offering a few introductory webinars throughout the next few months that will provide just like a higher level overview of Find More Illinois, and we'll walk through and demonstrate how patrons can search for titles and place requests, and how staff can assist them in that process. So probably that second type of training is maybe the training that all of you might attend. Again, that will walk you through how patrons can use the interface and navigate and place requests. So Kiara actually just sent out the training dates and registration links to your library's project leads earlier this week. So look for some more information from your library's project leads on your library's launch day, and then for more information on those training dates and how to get registered for them. So I'm just going to I'm going to pause for a sec to see if anyone has any questions. We're really excited about Find More Illinois. Still have a lot of work to do to get ready for it, but we're very excited. All right, I don't see any questions in the chat, but if you do have any that pop up after the meeting is over, feel free to just give me an email or open a help desk ticket, and I can help you that way. So moving on through my updates, I'm not sure if this one impacts you, but I just wanted to bring it to the attention of the group. On Monday, April 1st, we'll be completing our annual fine and fee waive. So on Monday night, April 1st, Innovative is going to waive all fines and fees that are 7 years or older in our database. That's regardless of amount, regardless of library, patron. So we'll send out a summary report to directors and the circulation list after the waive is over that summarizes the amount waived by library. So again, we do this waive every year. We're a little bit later this year than we have been in years past, but that waive will take place on Monday, April 1st, and it will waive all fees 7 years or older. All right, sorry for my long-winded update today. The last thing I have for you is an update on an engagement survey that we're going to be sending out within the next week. So we're going to be sharing out a survey with department heads and then CCS library contacts in various service areas that will ask some questions about technical and advisory groups. So we're hoping to learn more from all of you about what you like about our group, so this group included, and how we can make these meetings more valuable for you. So that survey again is going to go out to CCS contacts in certain service areas, and we'll also send it to department heads when the department head isn't the CCS contact. So that's a lot of you in this group, I think, so watch out for that survey. It will come from me, most likely. So in that survey, please be honest, share your thoughts on how we can make our group meetings better, and like more easier for you to attend, and again, more valuable for you to attend. So look for that. We'll use the data that we gather just to improve the groups moving forward. All right, I think that was my last update. So Sam, back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Deborah. Those are some valuable updates. So we will move next into old business. So we've talked a couple meetings that came up with the new display circulation status. We had all given feedback on what kind of status would be valuable, and a lot of people thought a display one would. So that has gone live, and we've had the opportunity to use that now. So Miyako is going to talk a little bit about that for us.
Thank you, Sam. I have a few slides and then I'm going to do a brief demo. So let me share my screen here. Okay, hopefully that's popping up now. So as Sam mentioned, it's one of the more recent previous meetings, we announced that we are going to update the existing circulation status. The group thought display was most valuable. Since we were able to implement this in training up through our recent upgrade, we've been able to do more testing, and we've definitely identified some behavior quirks. So today what I wanted to do was give an overview of the status, including those quirks that we've learned, and just give a quick demo to the group of what everything looks like. So I'm going to start by saying that using the display status is completely optional. If you want your display items to have a display status, you can absolutely use this status. Otherwise, if your displays have a lot of turnover, you may decide that it's just not worth using the circ status, and that's completely okay. So again, I just want to take you through what it looks like for patrons and for staff with a few screenshots, go over those behavior quirks. All of this info is on our how-to page on our website. So the URL is on the slide. On the page is just called display items. So the items are given a circulation status of display like staff, just as like when you're changing an item status to missing or repair, you're changing that item circulation status to display. So if you are part of the public services item editing permission group or the cataloging one permission group, you can change a single item's circulation status right in that item record, or you can bulk update using an item bulk change. Now, if you have general permissions, so you don't have those item editing permissions, you can still update an item's circulation status using a tool in the check-in workflow, and I will show you what that looks like. Now, we also have how-to pages on like the methods of changing the circ status in an item record and the method of using the check-in work form. And the display items how-to page will include links, so you can quickly jump to those step-by-steps for each method. So real quick, just some screenshots of what the display status looks like. So this is a couple views from the staff point. So you have some visual cues of that circ status from the item record header, which is that top screenshot. And then you can also see the circ status of an item when in a bib record, either the local items tab or the all items tab, and that is the lower screenshot. And this is what it looks like from the patron viewpoint in the Power Pack. So when looking at the holdings for a title, they will see a status of display instead of a label saying available or checked out. One thing to note here with using circ statuses is that the PAC copy availability count only considers items with the circ status of available. So if an item is in a display circ status, it's not going to be included where it says copies available at this library or copies available system-wide. Okay, so before I jump into the demo, just want to point out those quirks that we've uncovered. So these quirks are tied to the inherent behavior of the circulation status. So keep in mind here, like the circ status was originally the binary circ status, and then it became the damaged circ status, and now it's the display circ status. So like the underlying behavior doesn't change, it's just the label that we've been updating. So the first quirk, and I'm going to show you what this looks like. The first quirk is that when checking out at a service desk, staff need to clear the display status first. Now, this is just when you're checking out in Leap or the client. This does not extend to self-checks. So display items will automatically check out if you're using a self-check machine. The other thing to know about the display circ status is that these items will not appear on the pick list. So only items that have a status of available are going to be added to your pick list. So if there's a hold and your copy is in a display circ status, Polaris will push that request to another library with an available copy. And then again, like I mentioned in that last slide, items with a display circulation status are not counted as available copies in the Power Pack. Okay, so now I'm going to dive into Leap here. Let me just make sure I am logged in. Yes, okay. There we go. Okay, hopefully you can see my Leap screen now. So I have a handful of demo barcodes here. We're going to take a look. So the first thing I'm going to show is what it looks like if you have item editing permissions, or if you're part of that Cat 1 group and you want to change the status of an individual item record. I'm betting most of you have already done this, so I'll go through this fairly quickly. In the item record, when you open it up, you will find the circ status field under the details tab.
I'm in a meeting, sorry.
And this is where you can just expand the circulation status drop-down menu and select the option for display. I'm going to click Save to save these changes. We'll come back to this item because I want to show you what it looks like when you're checking out at Leap. The other method, which I'm betting fewer people here have used, is updating the circ status from the check-in tab. So this is the method you will use if you don't have item editing permissions. So for this method, let me grab my other barcode here. For this method, you first want to scan the item in check-in, and then select the item you want to update, select that little checkbox. And under the check-in actions drop-down menu, you will see an option to manage item record. I'm going to open this up real quick. And when you select it, it will open up a dialog, and there are certain fields that you can update right from this dialog. So the manage item record area will be locked down. So like if you don't have like cataloging permissions or item editing permissions, you may not be able to update like the material type or the collection. But all staff are able to update the circulation status of an item from here. So again, To do so, you'll just select the little checkbox next to the circulation status field. And then you can select the option for display. I will click OK to save those changes. And now our item, if I click into our item, you'll see that the circulation status here is display. Okay, so that's updating an item circulation status. I'm going to open up one of my test patron records here. Next thing I want to show you is what it looks like when you're trying to check out a display item at a circulation desk, at a service desk. So during my slides, I did mention that staff checking out at, or patrons checking out at a service desk, if they are attempting to check out a display item, they will run into alerts. So this is what staff will see: the checkout failed, unexpected item status display. So this is due to the behavior of that inherent behavior of the circulation status. So what staff will need to do here, it's a few extra clicks. They can keep the patron record open in the background. What they will do is open that check and work form, check the item in. Oh, no, yes. Once the item is cleared, so checking the item in is going to clear that display status, and then they can check it out to the patron. And then finally, if you are like cleaning up your displays and you want to clear the display status from an item, all you need to do is go into that check and work form, scan the item to check it in. That will clear the display status. So you'll see here the status went from display to available. So those are, that is what I wanted to demonstrate today with the circulation status. Let me pull up my slides just once more here. You can tell it's coming to the end of the week because instead of closing, just like minimizing my slides, I actually like close everything out. There we go. Okay. So the last thing I just kind of wanted to review for my portion are just kind of going through some options that you have for display items. So when it comes to display items, you have several options. Your library can determine which fits best at your location. Pause if there were any questions.
Okay, is there
oh, yeah,
any way to fix that thing where if it's considered display, it doesn't appear on pick list or anything? Is there any way to get around that planned?
Not at this time. So my suggestion would be to submit an idea to the Innovative Idea Exchange. I think the ideal path forward would be if there was a built-in display feature to Polaris instead of the circulation status. So we can, maybe, Deb, if you don't mind, could you get the link to the Idea Exchange and pop it in chat? So while we're getting there, I'm just going to run through some options. So I would say using the display status, this may work best for your library if you do a lot of checkouts through the self-check, right, where since the status will clear automatically. Or like if you want the status to clear once it's checked out or checked in. So yes, like when checking out in Leap, it's a few more clicks for staff, but it's still less to track than if you use a shelf location option. The other options besides the display status, is, like I just mentioned, using that display shelf location. So this option, this may be for you if you want a more descriptive display option. So I know looking at shelf lists at libraries, some libraries have a shelf location of youth display or like second floor display. Or if your library uses long-term displays, because the shelf location doesn't change when an item is checked in or checked out. Since it's up to staff to change the shelf location, you can keep something in display for as long as you need. On the flip side here, it is more time intensive for staff to make updates when transitioning something off of a display shelf location. Or finally, like if you want your display items to appear on the pick list, since this might be the option for you, since with this option, we're working with a shelf location instead of circulation status. So an item could have a shelf location of display and a circulation status of available in this scenario. And then of course, you don't have to do anything with those display items. If your display copies rotate on and off very quickly, and it's not a burden for staff to check displays when searching for an item, it may be easier for you to just leave items as is. I know at the library Deborah and I previously worked at, we filled our displays basically every hour. So the displays were so quickly rotating that it was just not a viable option for us to update a status or a location for those. So again, we have all of the information we reviewed here today for both the display circulation status and the shelf location option on that how-to page that I linked in the first slide. So I would say take a look, see, if you are interested in using a display option, you can completely up to your library to decide which one works for you, or again, you don't have to use display for your items. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'll pause for any more questions that you may have.
Emily had a question in the chat, and I think you covered it. Just what's the benefit of using the circ status over a shelf location? So Mieko mentioned that changing the shelf location means at some point you have to change the shelf location back to its original once that item is no longer on display. So I know staff are kind of managing that through record sets and bulk changes. So I know for some libraries that can get a little bit tedious and laborious to make those changes and keep track of those items. So the circ status, a benefit is once it's checked in, it's cleared. You're not messing with other fields in the item record. However, Mieko mentioned a few of those unexpected downsides that make that not as smooth as we wish it would be. So Emily, hopefully that answered your questions, but if you kind of have any follow-ups, just unmute yourself or pop them in the chat.
All right, well, thank you to Deborah for that follow-up, and thank you, Mieko, for going over what all of that looks like. So anybody who hasn't had a chance to see it yet now has a great visual representation of the whole process. Appreciate that. All right, so the next item on our agenda then is another piece of old business. So at the last meeting, David from Desplaines asked if it was possible to track dashboard clicks in the Power Pack. Since then, Desplaines has replaced their dashboard links with Bitly links to track clicks and usage. So John and David are going to give us an update on what kind of data they've gathered since they were able to make that change.
So we have been in Polaris for 6 years now. And I thought it was time for us to look at our catalog that had not been touched in 6 years. And so we redesigned the panel on the left there. And as we were doing it, we wondered if anybody was actually clicking on it. And we did discover that at least 3 people were, because they complained. And we thought, well, that's not the most scientific way of tracking. So we went with Bitly, bit.ly, which is mainly a URL shortener, but it also can count clicks. So the cheapest tier is $100 a year, and it lets you create 100 URLs, and you can customize them. So for example, the first one there, new fiction, the URL is bit.ly/DPPL new fiction. So it doesn't look like spam. It's a link that the public would feel safe clicking on. What Bitly also does is give you statistics. Now, unfortunately, it gives you a rolling month, so I don't have all-time statistics, but in the last month, our top link clicked is new movies and TV shows with 145, which is like 5 a month. So I guess that's pretty good. So our top 5 are new movies and TV shows, new fiction, new nonfiction, New York Times fiction, and Library of Things. And at the very bottom, no surprise, pay online. Nobody's paying us. So we have numbers to justify the work we did, and it looks nicer than it did. Thank you, Miyoko. And yeah, it's working great.
Awesome. Thank you, John. It's interesting to hear how many people click those. So you were saying 145 is since you implemented the Bitly links, or in the last 30 days?
Last 30 days.
Oh, okay. That's not bad for a month.
Yeah.
That's helpful. So if anyone else is interested in kind of updating your dashboards or your menu links up at the top, we can definitely substitute your existing URLs with Bitly links or links from another URL tracker. Actually worked with Emily over at Park Ridge because the free link shortener / tracker they were using wasn't accepting kind of the full Polaris URL with the CTX value. So we worked with Emily to find like an alternate format for that URL to make sure it would be compatible with the tool that they were using. So if this is something you're interested in, just open a help desk ticket. All we'll need from you is just the URLs that you want to replace in your PowerPack interface, and then we can get them updated so that you can kind of begin doing the same tracking that Displays is. So that's really useful, John. Thank you so much. And thanks for sharing kind of your top clicks. It is what I thought, that is what I expected they would be, is your movies and your fiction stuff. And Emily says that she likes John's comment that a customized URL is better for patrons. It looks less like spam. So definitely going to look at that Bitly subscription. Good tip. Yeah, that was a good tip, John.
All right, thanks so much. But that wraps up our old business from the last meeting, anything that came up then. So we will move on to new business for today. Ariane from Niles asked if it was possible to add a tag to titles with dyslexia-friendly font to make them easier to find. So Deborah's going to give us a bit of an overview on how to search for those titles using a local genre heading of dyslexia-friendly books.
Sorry, I was muted. That was a great question, Ariane. So I'm excited that you put this one on the agenda. So we do have a local heading of dyslexia-friendly books that you can use to search in both PowerPack and in Leap for titles that have this heading applied. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Hopefully you can see my Leap screen here. Zoom in a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the Leap Find tool. Hold on, let me just refresh here. I'm going to open up my Leap Find tool, and I'm going to open up, to start, I'll open up a Bib record search. So I can either search, just do a basic keyword search, or I can go ahead and I can change my search field to search by subject. And then I'm going to pop in our local heading, which is dyslexia-friendly books. So once I pop in that search term for my subject, I'm going to see that I have 104 results. So these are all of the records that have that heading applied to it. So I'm going to go ahead and just open one. And this opens the bibliographic record. So I'm going to open this record to the MARC tag. And if I scroll down in the MARC tag, in the 650, I can see the heading of dyslexia-friendly books. Or in the it's in the 650 and the 655. John, you are a subject heading expert. I do not quite know why it is in both places, though this top one is for indicating it specifically for juvenile fiction.
Yeah, I wouldn't make them also 650s.
This would just be in the 655.
655 because it's not about.
Mm-hmm. We can do some looking into that. Either way, it shows up in my search results, which is what I want it to do. You can also, like if I just pop over to Displays PAC, you can also search for subject headings in PAC as well as in LEAP. So if I just pop that search term into the catalog search box and initiate my search, I'm currently limited to just Displays materials. So it's showing that Displays has 43 titles owned at their location that have this heading applied. So this is kind of the best way, I think, to search for dyslexia-friendly materials. I will say, if you come across a title that doesn't have this heading applied to it, that's something that you can pass on to the cataloger at your library or open up a ticket with CCS and we can make sure that that heading gets added so that we can make our search results like as robust as they can possibly be. I'm gonna hop back to LEAP. So in LEAP, if you want, you can also search, you don't just have to search bibliographic records, you can also do an item record search using the same heading as well. Sometimes that's nice because you can limit the items to just your location and in the hit list, like see what's on the shelf and available. So depending on your search preference and your style, you can go with either option. But again, same as with the bib record search, I'm just going to change my search type to be a subject search. In this example, I'm just going to add a filter and I'm just going to filter by assigned branch. So if I'm at Niles, I can search to just items owned by Niles, click apply, and then initiate my search. So this will give me a list of the items owned by my library, and I can apply additional filters if I want to. So let's say I'm just looking for youth titles. I could apply a collection code filter of youth fiction or nonfiction to help winnow my list down to just what I'm looking for. But this is kind of a nice view because I can see the circulation status, is the item on the shelf, so I can pull it for a patron, or is it checked out, and maybe we can just place a hold on that title instead. I see something coming up in the chat. Ariane says, thank you. This is a sort of a new feature that's becoming more common in juvenile books, and will start appearing in adult titles as well. Yep, so definitely let's make sure that we're getting this local heading added on. I can ask Rachel maybe to send just a quick reminder to catalogers saying, hey, this is something that came up at PASS and is really important to this group in terms of searching. So thank you for putting it on our agenda. And Virginia actually did a little bit of cleanup. There were a handful of records that had this note in a different field in the record, in the 520 notes field. So she actually went through and added the local heading to those records. So you already helped us, Ariane, by putting this on the agenda, so I appreciate it. Emily asks, how would you create a canned search results link that filters down to youth or teen items? I know how to create the link to the search by subject, just not how to winnow it down to just kids or teen stuffs. It seems like a really valuable thing to link to on our website. Ooh, so you're wondering, Ariane, in like the Power Pack search, how to maybe limit by collection code? I think just so you could only show you stuff. I think that's something we should be able to do. I don't have, yes, I don't have that in front of me now, but I bet we can do that either by using the audience in the bib record, or I think we might be able to use collection code. So I'm not going to do this research right now, but we can maybe send this out to the pass group after the meeting. I think that would be really useful. Yeah, okay. So passers, look for an update on the listserv later today. I can send a couple different URL examples, and actually I will send kind of the shortened URL structure too that Emily and Park Ridge are using for their link tracking tool as well. Awesome. Good tip, Emily. Thanks for asking that. Any follow-up questions? Use those subject headings. All right. I'll pass it back to you, Emily, Sam.
All right, thanks, Deborah. Okay, so we'll go back to, I'm scrolling here in our chat just so I can get Emily's question from earlier, right, for that additional agenda item. Okay, so what we wanted to add was Emily's asking how other libraries track holds on items that are long overdue that become lost. Most likely this happens during the new Illinois State Awards season when we're putting holds on items to trap to take off display. That happens very frequently at ours as well. She says, we're seeing so frequently that we place holds on these items, but then they become lost. And if they're returned later, the hold is never actually reactivated. So they're tracking them manually, the holds manually at the moment, and clicking to see item availability. So does anyone else have any workflow processes that they do instead of that manual checking?
Yeah, I can give a suggestion from CCS. Let me share my screen really quick. So Polaris, some other ILS softwares, including our old ILS software, let staff override a hold. And when you overrode that hold, the system would say like, this item can fill this hold, no matter what restrictions or limitations were in place on that item record. But Polaris works differently. If an item is like not eligible to fill a hold based on the item's status, maybe it's in lost, or because the patron account that the hold is being placed for isn't eligible, maybe to a limit, etc. Like Polaris will not consider that item ever eligible to fill the hold. So this is what's happening in the instance of an item going to lost, a staff member placing an item level hold. Polaris is like, nope, this lost item, it's gone, it's lost, it cannot fill this hold. So when the item comes back and is checked in, it's not trapping for that hold. So a way to get around this that we recommend is instead of placing an item level hold is to place a free text block on the item. So have an item record pulled up here. In this example, it's checked out, but you can place a free text block on a lost item as well. I'm just going to pop in a note. Today's the 28th. Put my initials, return to Deborah if in. So I'm just going to put a note in here that says, return to Deborah if checked in. And then I'm going to click save. So now if I go to check in this item in Leap, I'm going to see this message pop up at the time of check-in. And it will show that the item is blocked and ask staff checking it in, do you want to continue with this action? And then I'll see the note that I put in the free text block saying, return to Deborah if checked in. At which point, as a circulation staff member who's checking in materials, I would say, look, this has to go up to Deborah. I would set it aside and make sure that it got to me. There is an option, so I know a lot of you have sorters. So this one, again, requires you to check it in by hand and staff to actually read the note that appears on that check-in screen. A lot of you have sorters, so you might not necessarily be reading a free text block at the time of check-in. So there is an option in your SIP settings to send all items with free text blocks to your exceptions bin. So I know some libraries have that turned on, some libraries don't. So if this is something you would like us to enable for you, you can open a help desk ticket Again, this change that we make on our end, it's a SIP setting change. It would route all items with a free text block to your exceptions bin. So that's something, if you're interested in, open a ticket. We can work with you to talk through some of the additional details around kind of what making that change means. So this is what we would recommend. Again, if you're trying to get kind of lost hot items that aren't holdable to anyone, if you're trying to get those back to a specific staff member, again, we would recommend placing a free text block on the item to make sure it gets into staff hands when it's returned. So does anyone have kind of any other ways that they monitor this? Is anyone using this method, and is it working for you? Here's silence. Emily, do you think that this could work at Park Ridge? She does. Yes, I love it. So if you have questions kind of about this process, again, it's pretty easy. You just open that item record that you want back, navigate to the block and note tab, and pop that note into the free text block. It'll pop up at the time of check-in. That's kind of the best way I think we have, or the best workflow in Polaris, to make sure these items get back to staff. So if you have questions on that, open a ticket, reach out to me directly. We're happy to walk you through that. Ooh, Dawn says she was creating a record set and tracking manually. So this seems like a big improvement. I would agree. Yeah. Again, you are kind of dependent. You just got to remind staff, just make sure you're reading those notes at check-in. I know sometimes we can kind of ignore blocks and messages when they come up. But as long as staff are just paying attention to that, I think it's a really easy and streamlined way to make sure items get back to staff. So anything we can do to kind of save everyone some manual work, keeping track of things on paper.
Great, thanks,
All right.
Deborah. That seems like a big improvement over anything manual. So we have reached the end of the agenda and the additional item that was added. So does anyone have any last minute things they would like to add on at this moment?
I actually have one kind of quick thing. It's a poll. I've never made a Zoom poll before, but I think I did it right, and I'm going to send it out to you. So it currently looks like our next meeting in June is scheduled to be virtual. But I am curious if the group would rather meet in person. So I'm going to just pop out a poll here to get some feedback from the group. That way we can move it to in person if everyone prefers that, or just keep it as virtual. Oh, it says I'm logged in from another device. My polling session is inactive. Oh no. I wonder, Mieko, maybe we're logged in on the same account and that's why I'm not able to do the poll. That is okay. Instead of a poll, we will just have you put in the chat if you prefer in person. Yeah.
Deborah, I'm sorry, I might be able to launch it.
Oh, if you can launch it, yeah, go for it. You poll stealer over there. You stole it from me. Yeah, if you can, go for it.
Okay, poll is live, guys.
I don't see it, but do you see people are answering?
Yeah.
Okay,
I do.
probably on like a co-host. Oh, I'm excluded from my own poll I created. I'm so sad. Just kidding, Mieko.
It was very exciting to launch it. I'm sorry to take that from you.
She completely stole your thunder there.
This was my first ever poll. I wanted the glory.
By June, at least we don't have to worry about snowstorms potentially disrupting people's commutes to the CCS offices.
Yeah, in my brain, I thought it was already in person, and then I saw we had it scheduled for virtual. So I just thought I would give everyone the chance, since I think I've been saying in June we meet in person. So I didn't want to disappoint anyone.
Okay, we've got 22 responses. I think that might be everyone.
All right, what's the verdict?
68% virtual.
Okay. All right, we'll keep it virtual then for June. And this is a question we'll be asking you in the survey we put out. What's your preference? What makes it easier for you to get to these meetings? So it sounds like at least for June, virtual it is. So thank you. We'll keep that Zoom session. All right, Sam, back to you to adjourn.
All right, thanks so much. So one last call if anybody else has anything they'd like to add. All right, then that wraps up our agenda for the March meeting. So at that time, I decide to adjourn the meeting at 10:21 a.m. All right, and thank you so much to everyone for coming this time. We'll see you virtually in June.
Thanks, everybody. It's good to see everyone. Thanks, Sam
Thank you.
and Mieko. Appreciate it.